Good morning, children. Today it is my lecture for under gravitation chapter. So let me start. In the last class we have completed Kepler's three laws of planetary motion. That is Kepler's third law of planetary motions. Also we have revised all the three laws along with some need points. Okay. Even today I am explaining the same third law to explain the universal law of gravitation. So be prepared. You have to recall the last class whatever we have learned. So before starting that, I just want to say, in the first lecture I said about the one Kepler has formulated three laws. That is first law, second law and third law. Where we know first law is law of orbit. It explains the shape of the one orbit. Second law, law of areas. Third law, law of period. So using those three laws, the Newton, famous scientist Newton, he has combined all these three laws and finally he has explained universal law of gravitation. So that I said in lecture 1 class. So today I am taking the help of those three laws, nothing but particularly Kepler's third law. And first I will explain how this universal law of gravitation has been started and finally how this was explained by Newton in his explanation. Okay, so please observe. In the previous class I said Kepler's third law, law of orbit, also called as law of, that is period, law of period, law of period, also called as the harmonic law, right? That was we have explained the one Kepler's third law. Using that, today I will explain the universal law of gravitation, how it has been arrived and how he has arrived using Kepler's third law. So first I will explain, then I go further in detail regarding the one universal law of gravitation. So please observe, deduction of universal law of gravitation from Kepler's third law. Deduction of universal law of gravitation from Kepler's third law. So please observe, this did not invent in one day. It has taken as many as years to explain this. So the one Newton in the early 1665 at the age of 23, he was observed this universal law of gravitation, where he explained what he has done. He was sitting in an apple garden where by taking a cup of tea he observed that he is sitting in an arcade, that is apple arcade. He observed apple was falling towards the ground. By just looking to this, he also thought that maybe he was inspired by that and he thought that might be the same force which always explains for the a moon which is revolving around the earth. Maybe that can also be explained by. He thought on that first day itself, by observing that he has gone many investigations, he has done many experiments, he deduced many laws. By using all this, today he has explained the one famous law, it is the universal law of gravitation, right? So but remember, this was observed in the early 1665. 1665 he observed this in the year 1665, right? What is he observed? He Kepler's law. That particularly third law he has taken, called as law of period. In his explanation, what he has done, where suppose if you take the sun is at one of the foci, let me say the sun is at one of the foci, planet is at this position, that is on the orbit, where you can say this is the planet. The planet is revolving around the sun in elliptical orbit, right? It is having velocity v. Let me say this, the sun, mass of the sun, let me represent by capital M. Let me say the mass of the planet is represented by small m. And these two are separated by some distance r. Remember, to explain this concept, first he has assumed maybe this is circular orbit. Using circular orbit, he has extended his explanation for elliptical orbit. That you already know in the third law, right? Now, using the same concept, we have taken now the from sun to the planet distance is r. By using this, first concept he observed, might be there is a force of attraction between the sun and the planet. There is a force of attraction. Why it has happened? Because both of them are having masses. So as and when there is a mass between the two objects, whenever there is a mass between the two objects, there arises a force of attraction between them, and hence it explains the one gravitation. So attraction arises whenever there is a mass between the two objects, and due to which you can say the one gravitation has been realized. Okay. So now he has taken the condition, the one planet is revolving around the sun. And also he has observed there is an attraction between them. And this planet is seeking towards the sun, always it is attracted towards the sun. Hence, it must be having the one centripetal force. Because you know, an object whenever it is seeking towards the center, it is said to be called as nothing but there exists a centripetal force. Okay, so due to which we first use the condition, maybe that is due to centripetal force. You know, according to the centripetal force, we have the formula mv square by r. What is this m? M is said to be the mass of the planet. Okay, so this is the mass of the planet, where r is said to be the distance between the sun and the planet, where v is the velocity of the planet which is revolving around the sun. By using this, he has taken this condition. But you already know, to this velocity, by using the assumptions like circular orbit, we know the concept where velocity is equal to, that is displacement by time. We already know this displacement by time. But using circular orbit, we know this displacement has been taken place to complete one complete circle, due to which we use circumference of the orbit. Circumference of the orbit. Right? This we know in the previous class itself. This is the previous class continuation part is. Okay? Divided by, what is this t? The time taken to complete one complete rotation. You can say this complete revolution, I can say, but that is nothing but you call it as where it is t. Therefore, it is capital T. We replace small t by capital T when we use this condition. We already know where v is equal to, that is circumference of the orbit is represented by, it is 2 pi r by t. By using this condition, where we can write here, this is none other than, that is m. V m by r, I take it as it is. Let me substitute for v, it is 2 pi r by t. This is square. By using this, we get, that is f is equal to, this is nothing but m by r into 4 pi square r square by t square. If I just cancel this r, you get f is equal to, this is m into, that is nothing but 4 pi r cube, 4 pi square r cube divided by t square. Right? So this is what we have here. Now, if I take the condition here, this is 4 pi, this is, we got the expression using, if 1 centripetal force. Now you come across here, that is nothing but if I use all these conditions, where if I substitute, where in the Kepler's third law, we know the condition where T square is proportional to R cube. By using that we have proved T square is equal to KR cube, where K is called as proportionality constant, that is represented by K, right? And therefore, if I substitute this in this condition, where T square is equal to nothing but, let me substitute in this expression. For example, if I substituting T in F, substituting T square in F. This is the expression we had here. Let me say, in this expression if I substitute, this is F, that is equation 1. Let me write for your convenience, this is equation 1 in equation 1. If I write F is equal to, that is 4 pi square m R cube divided by, I substitute this as, this is, here it is 4 pi square, 1 r will be cancelled, only 1 r will left out here, right? 4 pi r, okay, this is 4 pi square r into m divided by t square. I substitute this t square, k r cube. If I just cancel this r and this one, then you get finally F is equal to 4 pi square m divided by k r square, right? Now, for your convenience, I will just use this condition where I keep this as nothing but, which is 4 pi square by k is constant, and this m by r square, where I will keep it as it is. So what does this explains? Remember, always the sun and the planet, there will be a separation between r. So there arises a mutual attraction between planet and the sun. So this is what you can observe here. There is a mutual attraction between sun also attracts towards the planet, planet will also attract towards this. Therefore, there is a mutual attraction between these two. Hence, I can say where 4 pi square by k, where it is 4 pi square by k is proportional to mass, that is capital M. What is this mass? This is mass of the one sun, right? It is proportional to that. Similarly, if I remove this proportionality, I can write 4 pi square by k is equal to gm. What is this g? When I remove this proportionality, you get a constant, and that constant is represented by capital G, where this capital G is called universal gravitational constant. Again, we will come across once again, I will tell you, just you observe, universal gravitational constant, right? Okay. Now, using this condition, if I use in this final expression, if I substitute here, I can also write where F is equal to this complete here, it is represented by Gm into M by R square. So, this is the one final expression which is useful to explain today's universal law of gravitation according to Newton. So, this arises because the help of Kepler's third law, he has observed the Kepler's third law and he explained all this. Finally, has arrived at this expression. This is F is equal to Gm by R square. So, using this, he explained the further concept, right? So, this is what you can observe here, right? How did he get this? By deduction of universal law of gravitation from Kepler's third law. And please observe, here I have written this expression, and from this finally Newton concluded in his explanation. What was the conclusions from Kepler's laws? What the Newton has concluded from this concept means the one conclusions given by Newton. Conclusions given by Newton using Kepler's laws. Kepler's laws. What is it? Where you can observe that is using Kepler's law, he has given conclusion. In this expression, what does it explain? The first concept in his conclusion, he has used the concept of centripetal force. Centripetal force. There is a force of attraction between the sun and the planet, due to which always it is seeking towards the center and therefore it is directed towards the sun. Hence, it exhibits centripetal force. This was a conclusion given by Newton from Kepler's laws. Okay, the first point. What is the second point he has observed? He has observed where F is proportional to 1 by, that is 1 by R square. What does it explains? What does it explains? Here, this explains inverse, that is nothing but force is inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. Alright, completely, where force, the one you can say force is that is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. Square of the distance. Right? So, this explains also in the next coming days I will tell you this, because this distance is inversely proportional and R which is having square due to, it is called inverse square law. So, within one word you can say he has used the concept of inverse square. By this, the one reduction. What is the third point? Here, third point, he explains depending on the one mass of the sun and mass of the planet, due to which he explains force is directly proportional to product of those two masses. So he explained force is directly proportional to the product of the masses. Right? Okay. So please observe, by using the Kepler's third law, he has arrived at the expression, and from all these steps, finally he concluded in 3 steps. In his conclusion he says, the first point, in his explanation he uses centripetal force. What's the second point? He has observed where distance is always inversely proportional to the force and it is always square of the distance it is. Hence it explains inverse square law. What was the third point he has observed? He has observed the masses are always, they are directly proportional, due to which always force is directly proportional to product of the masses. So from this derivation he concluded. But you may also remember, you have to remember, this only explained using this. But this did not explain only by using this condition. To explain this inverse square law, he has used the condition. What he has used? He has taken the concept where first he has observed the one planet which is revolving around the sun, they exhibit a force of attraction between them. Similarly, a moon which is revolving around the earth also will be having the same force of attraction. Hence, due to which he has first calculated acceleration of the moon, that is acceleration of moon. He calculated acceleration of moon. How did he calculate acceleration of moon? He has calculated by using the formula v square by r. What is this v? V is again, you will take the condition. It is nothing but the circumference of the one orbit, where it is 2 pi r, that is by t whole square, again into, this is r. By using all this, fine. What is this r? This is the one radius of the one the moon to the one, nothing but the earth. What is the radius of the moon to the earth? Nothing but you can say it is, you can also say it as it is 3.84, where I can say where our radius of the moon is 3.84 into 10 to the power of, where I can say it is 10 to the power of 8 meters. He has taken this condition. This is the radius of the moon. What is this T? This T is time of the time period of moon, where it is 27.3 days. So to calculate this, he has taken 27.3 into 86400 seconds. By using all this, substituting, he found acceleration of the moon, where acceleration of the moon is 2.72. It is acceleration of the moon is 2.72 into 10 to the power of minus, it is 23, it is meters per, it is minus, it is nothing but 10 to the power of 2.72. I'll write here itself. If I write here only, it is correct. Now, where I'll write, here only I'll write acceleration of the moon. It is 2.72 into 10 to the power of minus 3 meters per second square. This is the unit for acceleration. And he found using this. Also he calculated the acceleration due to gravity of the earth. Nothing but that is A acceleration of gravity due to the one acceleration due to gravity. That is A subscript G. Where you can say, let me just write G itself. That will be connected. Where if I write small g, where it is acceleration due to gravity, which is acceleration due to gravity of the earth is 9.8 meters per second square. By observing this, he has observed where acceleration of moon is much less than acceleration of the earth. So by using this condition, he observed that maybe this explains inverse square law. By again calculating the one radius which is inversely proportional to the one condition, by taking moon and acceleration due to gravity of the earth, he finally proved where it explains inverse square law. This is inversely proportional to square of the distance, therefore it is inverse square. Finally, he also observed two objects. One is sun, another is planet, due to which he observed these two bodies are always, if I place two objects, nothing but two objects which are separated by some distance r, like this is m, this is small m, and this is attracting towards this mass and this is attracting towards this mass. Hence, according to Newton, in his explanation he uses Newton's third law. Newton's third law. What does it explain? Newton's third law. For every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. This object will be attracting towards this. If I say this is nothing but attraction is F, and this object is attracting towards this side, and this will be also force F. But if this is F and this will be minus F, due to which where it explains action and reaction concept. Action and reaction concept. And finally proved this is obeyed only by using Newton's third law, where the product of masses can be agreed. So please observe this, he did not say in one day all these has been taken place, and he has observed with thorough investigations with experimental data, and finally proved all this has been taken place. Hence today we come across this one. So early 1665 he started this one condition, nothing but by just seeing an apple falling towards the earth, right? Early in 1665 he was inspired by that. He started his the one experimental evidences to prove that by taking the help of Kepler's law. But in the year 1687 he wrote a book by name Principia. In his book he has stated the one universal law of gravitation. How he stated in his book in the year 1687 in his Principial book, how he has explained the statement and proved it. Okay, so please be aware of students here. Today I have explained this, the deduction of universal law of gravitation, how you can observe this universal law of gravitation. This derivation you will never get, deduction of universal law of gravitation in UC board exam, right? But remember, these concepts are required whenever you expect some objective type questions. At that time you do this. Is it clear? And one more point, I want to explain one more point here. One more neat question you expect here. This was explained in the new, that is Kepler's third law. The previous class we observed and you have taken this condition, right? You will have one question in the NEET where if you plot a graph, t square versus r cube, what will be its slope, they will ask. But remember, since t square and r cube are directly proportional, naturally you get a graph which is a straight line. But what will be this slope, they will ask. At that time, the slope is represented by k. This is an objective NEET question where at that time where k is equal to 4 pi square gm. This I have proved in the previous class in the Kepler's third law. I have proved this. So this one you can observe here. In this is one type question. Okay, one more point. Here, all the planets are revolving around the sun in an elliptical orbit, we said. And we have totally 9 planets in that Neptune, which is away from that. Sometimes it is not giving the one circular orbit, due to which you can say, using that 9 planets, the one Mercury, you already know there are 9 planets, in that Mercury, which is the first planet which is closest to the sun, due to which Mercury, which is closest to the sun, which is always hottest it is. Mercury is very hottest it is. At the same time, since it is very close to the sun, the time period will be, please observe, for Mercury. I will write here, for Mercury, which is very closest to the sun. It is closest to the sun, and at the same time you can remember it is hottest to the sun. Hottest you can say because it is near to the sun, which will be very hot. And this Mercury, the time period for this is only 88 days. Please observe, this is having only 88 days. The one Mercury which is having 88 days. Far away from the sun, where it is the farthest to the sun, I can say Pluto, where it is farthest to the sun, where it is having nearly 247 years. The time period is 247 years. So please observe. So by observing this, you are ready to say different planets will have different, that is the one radius, due to which the one nearer to the sun, which is closest to the sun, will be having the time period is 80 days, which is Mercury. And the one Pluto, which is farthest, it is having 247 years. So among 9 planets, you know one more, that is Venus, which is close to the Earth, which is the brightest, that is planet you can say. And you know the biggest planet is Jupiter. So all this you already know earlier, but you just recall. And these points, this is the one point you had to remember in CET type questions, that is all medieval questions. And this is also one more, this is the one. If you just draw graph, the square of the time period versus the cube of the semi-major axis, nothing but Kepler's third law. Using that, if you draw the graph, you always, because they are directly proportional, you get a straight line. And what is the slope means? That slope is represented by 4 pi square divided by gm. Okay, right. So this is, you just remember now. Let me highlight today the very important concept, the one universal law of gravitation, which was written in his book, that is Principia, in the year 1687. Okay, so these are the concepts you just remember for the objective type questions. Any concept based questions you can remember here. So right, now let me go for the actual universal law of gravitation. According to the one statement you expect in the exam, that let me show you how to write the things and how you have to explain it. So from all these observations you have observed, that is, it has taken many years to explain all this concept, and finally he observed. This is what he has said correctly, all those things by experimental facts, by experimental evidences. Okay, right. Now let me just go for the actual concept, that is Newton's universal law of gravitation. Newton's universal law of gravitation. Okay, right. And please observe, this was a statement in his book by name Principia. He has written in the book Principia in the year 1687. After completing all the evidences, finally he has written this statement in this Principia. What does he states? According to the Newton, every particle in the universe attracts every other particle with a force of attraction and is always directly proportional to product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them and the line joining between the centers of those two masses, the line joining between them. Okay. Now let me first write this statement. I will draw the figure step by step. I will explain what it is. Okay. So just let me start. Every particle in the universe attracts. Every particle in the universe attracts every other particle with a force of attraction, with a force of attraction. Every particle in the universe attracts every other particle with a force of attraction and inversely proportional to the square of the distance, inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them and the line joining between their centers. So please observe, every particle in the universe attracts every other particle with a force of attraction and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them and the line joining between their centers. Okay, this was the statement given by Newton. And now using this statement I just draw the figure, I just show the conditions. Please observe, I take two objects. This is two masses. Let me say this is M1, this is M2. From the center of this to this, here, there is a separation between them is R. Line joining between them, you can observe that. But remember, according to this, every particle in the universe attracts every other particle. So this mass will be attracted towards this body. That is nothing but according to the second mass. So let me write this as force F. And again, this mass is attracted to M1, that is M2. So I write force, but it is acting in opposite direction. I write minus F. So again you observe here, this is F plus F, that is minus F. Again it explains Newton's third law of motion. Is it clear? So I have just drawn the figure. Now I derive this expression to explain the magnitude of force. I will show the magnitude of force. Please remember, magnitude. Magnitude is none other than the length, the size. That I am showing now. One more we have, that is force, because force is a vector quantity. It has both magnitude and direction. Then again I take the condition of direction and I prove Newton's universal law of gravitation in vector form. But now I am proving the one magnitude of the one force. I am showing the expression for magnitude of force. Okay. So now according to this condition, already you just recall. Now I have said conclusions from Kepler's laws. He has used centripetal force, that you already know, there is an attraction between them. Second point, he has said inverse square law. Third point, he has explained the product of the masses. So due to which I take the conditions, those two conditions, I prove it. The first point you have to remember here, where he has taken point masses. This explanation mainly includes point masses. It is only true for point masses. Please observe. This is only applicable for true point masses. Point size mass, it is applicable. He did not explain for arbitrary masses. Arbitrary masses, because if you take any arbitrary mass like this, and due to which there the separation he cannot explain by using this. Therefore, he is unable to explain this. But for point masses, we have certain distance. He did not explain this, but only has explained it is only true for point masses. So, be prepared. Always remember, the masses should be point masses. It holds good for point masses. According to him, the first condition he said, where force is directly proportional to, this is mass M1 and this is mass M2. So I write M1 into M2. We also call it as product of masses. The multiplication of masses is also called as product of masses. So according to this condition. What is the second point he has taken? He has taken distance. What is this distance? This distance is inversely proportional to square of the distance. So please let me tell you what it is. We have two masses, and if I take these two masses, if I increase the masses, here we have the condition directly, due to which as I increase the mass, force increases. As you decrease the mass, force decreases. So increase or decrease depends on the masses. As and when there is an increase in the mass, force also increases. As and when there is a decrease in mass, force decreases, because you know it is directly proportional. What do you mean by this one? inversely. Inversely means if two masses are here at this position, as the distance increases, force decreases. If I bring them very close to each other, naturally distance decreases, force increases. So it is inversely proportional. So be prepared for this. Just remember, directly this is inversely. As and when I say directly, if the one masses increases, force increases. If the masses decreases, force decreases. So increase or decrease of masses will increase or decrease of forces. But remember, if two masses are separated by some distance and the distance has been increased, if I say distance has increased, force decreases. If the same masses are brought together, when they bring closer together, naturally distance decreases, naturally force increases. But remember one more point. Here I did not write only r. I have written r to the power of 2. It is not r to the power of 1, r to the power of 3 or r to the power of 7, r to the power of 5. It is 2, due to which this obeys inverse square law. Obeys inverse square law. So please observe, first point you have to remember point mass. You have to select point mass. It is true only for point mass. It is always explains inverse square law. Okay. By using this, finally, if I just take equating 1 and 2 both. This is directly, this is inversely I have. So equating equations 1 and 2. Equating equations 1 and equation 2. Then F is proportional to M1 M2 by R square. I can write directly F is proportional to M1 M2 by R square. If I remove this proportionality, a constant arises. And this constant is represented by capital G. And remember, into M1, M2 by R square. What is this G? This is a proportionality constant has been arised. After removing this proportionality symbol, you got this. This G is called universal gravitational constant. What do you mean by this? Universal. It is same for throughout the universe. It is same for all the planets or any of the universe. Whatever you explain, it remains the same. It will never change. Throughout the one universe, this G remains constant and it will never change. And it will always remain the same. It is same for all the one objects, it remains same. Therefore, this capital G is called as universal gravitational constant. Okay. Now, by using this, let me tell you, this capital G, it's a constant. We have this value for G is 6.67 10 raised to minus 11 m square kg to the power of minus 2. What is this? In SI units. The value of G is in SI units, it is this much. You did not get like this as it is, you cannot write the number. But remember this, we have an experiment now. In the next coming days, I will explain the one gravitational constant, an experiment which was explained by Henry Cavendish by using torsion balance. He has proved this value, that is 6.67 10 raised to minus 11 nm square kg to the power of minus 2. This is in SI system. Sometimes you may feel very big number it is, how to remember. For your convenience, I will just tell you, this 6.666 is none other than, you just remember this is an even number. You know even number where it is 6.667. What is this? Minus 11. Minus, because minus it is, remember this G is a gravitational force, is always the weakest force in the nature. Since it is weakest among the four basic forces in nature, you can say this is minus. And how to remember this 11? Just very simple point I want to say. To remember this 11, you can use this gravitation. Remember, this is G, R, A, V, I, T, A, T, I, O, N, gravitation. There are 11 words, that is, you can, alphabets are there, due to which you can remember is 10 raised to minus 11. So, 6.67 reason you just remember it's an even number, then you can remember perfectly, you need not forget, you can remember this. And since I have written minus because it is the weakest force among all the basic forces in nature. Maybe in school days you have learned 4 basic forces. Among them, this gravitational force is the weakest force. And this 11 you can remember easily by using this gravitation, this letter, where in this there are 11 alphabets. So by using that you can remember this. How did I write this SI unit, madam? Means I will take the help of this formula. I will take the help of this formula and just write where by equating G is equal to F R square by M1 M2. I take the help of this formula. Right? Now, please observe F. F is written in terms of SI unit. This is Newton. Distance is always measured. You already know in the units and dimension chapter, distance is measured in meters. And this masses are measured in kg. Since M1 and M2 kg square, it is kg square. So you get, when you bring to the numerator, it becomes kg to the power of minus 2. Right. In one more that I want to write in CGS system. CGS system, the unit is G is equal to, the value of G is 6.67 into 10 raised to minus 8. Instead of Newton, we write dyne, and this meter square I write in terms of centimeter square. In terms of this gram, this is kg, I write grams. This is in CGS system. So just now we have learned the one value of G and this one nothing but called as CGS units. I had tell you one more, the one dimensional formula for this. Dimensional formula. How to write dimensional formula? Already in the previous, the first chapter you have learned how to write dimensional formula. This is force. To explain force, the dimensional formula is mL t raised to minus 2. M to the power of 1, L to the power of 1, t raised to minus 2. Length, it is L square. This is nothing but distance is measured in length. Masses are measured in terms of, that is expressed in terms of M. This distance are expressed in L, masses are expressed in terms of M. So I can write by just cancelling one M, where capital G is equal to M to the power of minus 1, L to the power of 2 plus 1, this is 3. Because bases are same, powers can be added. T to the power of minus 2. This is written within the square bracket. This is the one rule you have to remember always to write in square bracket, the dimensional formula for G. And this G, one more point I want to say, it's a scalar quantity. Just remember scalar quantity. But remember F is a vector quantity, but G is a scalar quantity. Right? So you will expect one standard question here, which is the one, state Newton's law of gravitation, explain. You had to explain up to here, and at the same time they may just start the question, write its SI unit. They may just ask you to write the SI unit, and also they may tag to write dimensional formula. These are the tag questions. Sometimes you may expect alone for 1 mark these questions, write the SI unit of G, or maybe the one dimensional formula. And this only explains magnitude. Please observe, this explains only magnitude of universal law of gravitation. The next class I will explain the vector form of universal law of gravitation. Vector form. But now this is the magnitude of the form of the universal law of gravitation. And this point particularly you have to remember to explain this statement. This is true only for point masses. Is it clear? So please observe, today I have explained this standard concept, Newton's law of gravitation, thoroughly first Kepler's laws, and now I have shown this according to the one written in the Principia book. He has written this statement. This is what I had to remember. You will expect this for the PUC board exam, the one statement with explanation, where particularly for magnitude you have to explain this. For magnitude. Is it clear? Thank you very much.